since we've talked. Again, it's vacations and things like that, but how have you been?
I've been great. Bill, I hope that I'm not about to experience severe weather this evening, but I have been very good.
There,
And hopefully you're able to let me know what I can expect.
there is that chance for some stormy weather, but the good news is, and everyone in the Weather Center is very excited about this, we have moved well beyond our peak for severe weather season, and we're hopefully, again, it's been fairly quiet for the last week or so, for the most part. And so we're kind of hoping we can. We've already gotten, I think most everyone's gotten all the rain they already need for the entire month of July. So if we can kind of coast into back to school season and things like that in August, I think everyone will be pretty happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this is an important week for a lot of online shoppers, right? I mean, not only just because we've got a couple of major retailers providing a number of discounts and opportunities, but also, like you just said, we've got folks who are excited about back to school shopping. We've got all sorts of things to spend money on, and hopefully, folks are staying alert and doing that as safely as possible.
And that's going to be the topic that we talk about today. Again, you just mentioned it. I think it was Target Circle Week last week. I did buy some school uniform shirts last week from Target Circle, and today is the beginning of Prime Day. And you can rewind, I believe it was a year ago now, we had this exact conversation talking about Prime Day, but this is again Christmas in July. This is a lot of Christmas shopping, and a lot of gifts are going to be bought over the next 24 to 48 hours off Amazon Prime. And this is probably for scammers and people who are trying to do some of those things. This is probably just as big a day for them as it is for us as consumers.
Yeah, it turns out scammers are very aware of what the primary holidays are on the retail calendar, in addition to the kind of more traditional calendars that we talk about. Anytime you can wedge your way into a growing market, there are billions of dollars that are going to exchange hands right over the next 48 hours. And that's something that is incredibly enticing for someone who is interested in making a quick buck off that action. And it's probably never been more complicated than it is right now to suss out what is a legitimate operation, a legitimate opportunity, a product that might have a couple thousand reviews. That seems reputable from one that really is just kind of masquerading and pretending to be, a carrot that is of interest to consumers. It's incredibly challenging. You see photos that are lifted from professional sites all the time. You see lookalike websites that emerge. A lot of social media advertising mirrors the traction and the activity that we see over this week, not just this week, but also last week. So there's a lot to be on the lookout for. But luckily, I think there are some best practices that some of which are foundational, which can help you navigate that process as safely as you can.
Yeah, and again, sometimes especially when you're going through Amazon and going through the Prime Day deals and stuff like that. Sometimes you're buying kind of direct from Amazon, but sometimes you're getting connected with a seller, and that's when I feel like probably more often than not we might have some of these issues. Am I wrong in kind of that thinking?
Not wrong at all. Turns out, Amazon, much as they might try, can only do so much to police the activity on its platform with the volume of interest in selling on the platform. They do a fantastic job of weeding out those who aren't actually interested in providing the product that they say they are for the price that they say is available. But it's an incredibly challenging situation. And for many, some of the things that they look for traditionally are things that are very easy to copy or to create, a facade to handle things like online reviews. It's very easy to kind of dupe someone into thinking that this product has been purchased by all of your neighbors and everyone and yet something comes to your front door and it's a counterfeit good, or it's something that might not come to your front door in the first place. So a lot to be on the lookout for. It's not to say that all these products are that way, but there are a lot of opportunities today, and there are a lot of opportunities that are pretending to be available today.
And so, Josh, over the course of the last year, we've talked a lot. A lot of best tips, best practices, online shopping, and it all just kind of comes to a head. A couple times a year. This obviously being one of them. Then you get into towards the Christmas holiday season, things like that. So again, you've mentioned some of those tips and tricks, and probably what I'm going to ask you here, and probably what I'll hear you say is a lot of what we've said repeatedly over and over again over the course of the last year. But one of the reasons why we do this segment and why we continue to do these segments is that a lot of it is just you kind of got to keep hitting people in the head with some of this information over and over and over again, because we kind of have to, as consumers, have to be on the lookout the whole entire time. These scammers, they only have to get it right once to potentially get a payday.
That's a great way to put it. You cast a wide enough net, you get 5% people who are willing to fall into it. That represents an enormous payday for a scammer. Some of the most foundational lessons, like we've talked about, are essential to rely upon for days like today, when you're providing not just that payment information, but also personal information, right? Anytime you kind of go through a transaction, you're laying out, who you are, where you live, phone number, in some cases biographical information, which you should always push back on if it's requested. But in some cases, folks have been asked what their date of birth is. There's a lot of information that you provide with every transaction. And much as we might like to think that we would avoid some of those, concocted enterprises that seem designed to steal this information, a lot of it looks just like you would find on a reputable website. We're talking about lookalike websites a little bit ago. In some cases, those are meant to mirror, from a UX perspective, the exact same design experience and interface that you would have on the reputable website. So it's really hard to know, one, that you are where you think you are, and also to keep that information as secure as possible.
And so I know, because we always talk, and you've hit me in the head enough times with it, but I know as I ask you to kind of list what are some of the top things that folks need to watch out for, I know one of them is going to be make sure you pay with a credit card, because that's got kind of the built-in fraud protection that comes with it, where you can dispute that charge.
Let's lead with that. Tip one, pay with the credit card. Always best practice to use plastic if you can. That way, if there are any shady charges that pop up later, you have the ability to dispute those charges through your credit card company. If someone is forcing you to pay with a prepaid debit card, or they're asking for a wire transfer or a gift card, and it's not a gift card specifically for that product or for that company, you should really tread carefully, if not walk away completely from that opportunity. Because the reality is those are incredibly difficult modes of payment to police. And those transactions are irrevocable. So anytime that money is sent, it really is challenging to ever see that money again, at least with credit cards, which I get are not for everyone. But for those who do have credit cards, you have that fraud protection, such that if something does go awry, you can dispute it rather easily and get your money back. So that is something to be on the lookout for. Also, make sure that the website is secure today. I know we talked a little bit about Prime Day. There are so many July sales opportunities available. It seems like every retailer is now trying to get on the action. Not all of the sites, particularly those that are advertised through social media mediums, are actually taking you to that website in question. So if you are doing mobile shopping, you want to double and triple check that URL. You should do that regardless, but particularly on mobile, where you're getting the abridged version, you want to look for that HTTPS in the URL. That extra S stands for secure. And it's really important that you don't provide payment or personal information into websites that only have HTTP. They're not secure. And it's very challenging to keep that information from getting into the hands of someone who might not be interested in actually helping you with that transaction. We mentioned that professional photos, not always meaning that it's actually a real offer. It's very easy to lift photos these days. So if you have questions, or you're on a boutique site or a site you've never heard of before, do a reverse image URL search to get a better sense for whether that photo has been lifted from elsewhere. If there's a company you've never heard of before, there might be a reason for that, right? And you want to do at least a little bit more research into that company, because they might be completely brand new to the marketplace, and you want to know that they're actually saying and proving that they are going to provide that service or that good to you when you go through the checkout process. So those are some tips to be on the lookout for. Like I mentioned, there's a whole lot of social media advertising, particularly this time of year, and they're going to dangle that offer, that good that a lot of people are after. Think the new EA Sports college football video game. Think a power washer, right? Things that people want over the summer. Scammers are very aware of what gets you to act and what motivates people to respond, and so they will make those goods seem like they are available at cut rate discounts. And the reality is that some of those ads are real and some of them aren't. And you want to make sure that you're at least engaging with the marketplace today and every day on your own terms.
I know I'm getting old when I think of the thought of a new power washer, and it excites me just a little bit more than the thought of the new EA College Football 25, which I have purchased, but I don't have a power washer. But I think I could use a power washer. I think I would like that just as much as the
On
as the
days like
video
today,
game.
you can get them both at the same time in the same transaction.
You absolutely can. Again, Josh, those are all really good tips. I really quickly want to ask you though, and we have talked about this before. There is a back end to this whole process as well. You have your haul in your Amazon cart, whatever cart it might be. But then on the back end, there are also people, and we see doorbell ring video all the time of people snagging all this stuff right off the front porch. So again, what are the tips to make sure all of the things that you have purchased and you have spent your hard-earned money on, make sure they get to your door safely?
Amazon has a fantastic feature, which is a Dropbox, where you can force the product to be sent to a publicly available location that is not your home. And the reason why you would want to do something like that is if you're working like a traditional workday and it gets dropped off at 11:30, you don't want to have to wait till 5 to come back and find that product on your porch, because much as we'd like to think that all of our neighbors and even those who are just kind of in and around the neighborhood have the best of intentions in mind, there are some who are looking to swipe packages. That is a very lucrative field, believe it or not, for a lot of folks. Folks who are just looking to truly pull products off your front doorstep. So if at all possible, use those Dropbox options. It'll also avoid you needing to click into any links such that to track the package. It seems like you can't go a couple of days without receiving word that a package is on its way, and you need to be able to track it immediately from your phone. Many of those communications are phishing attempts, so you can avoid a lot of that type of communication, moseying on through there. And then if at all possible, if you have any sort of control over when that product gets delivered, if you can require a signature, that's a really fantastic way to, again, avoid a product sitting on your front door in the summer heat.
100%. And those are all really good tips, Josh. I did not know about the Dropbox feature, so that is nice. So is that like something where like it'll just send it to like the UPS store or something like that, and then you can just pop in at the UPS store or the FedEx or the post office, whatever it might be, and then grab it from there?
Absolutely. Yep. At the UPS stores, some of them are attached to the side of gas stations. You will be aware of where you need to go to pick it up, but it is a publicly available place, and it's a lot more secure than something just idling on your front door.
See, Josh, this is why I like talking to you. I learn something new every week that we chit chat and hang out. I did not know any of this before. These are all good things to know.
Happy to help.
And so before we let everyone go, we want to shift gears just for a little bit, kind of talk about a different topic. Obviously, there was the attempted assassination of former President Trump that happened this weekend, and he then authorized, I guess is the language that's kind of being used, but authorized a GoFundMe. For the victims of that rally in Pennsylvania. And again, this is probably one of those opportunities where people who are out with ill intentions are trying to take advantage of this opportunity. So we want to be extra careful in where we are sending our dollars. Again, I have pulled up here the link to that GoFundMe that has been, again, authorized by President Trump, or former President Trump. But you wanted to quickly talk about, again, some of these charitable websites and making sure that, again, your money's going in the right direction.
Yeah, what's great after a disaster, a very public tragedy, is that People seem to always want to help in any way that they possibly can. They ask for fundraisers, they ask for the means by which to help survivors and the victims' families. And that's a truly wonderful thing on a human level. But there are sadly a lot of folks who are looking to take advantage of vulnerable moments, who are looking to take advantage of those who want to support those who need it most. And in some cases, we are talking about outright scammers who are willing to create a fake crowdfunding campaign on a number of different websites to secure donations for a cause that they don't intend to make good upon. But in some cases, we're also talking about people who don't have any sort of background in philanthropy, any sort of background in support for victims, who don't have any sort of charitable experience. And sadly, what those folks find is that they might come up with a fantastic story that gets people to act, it gets people to care. And once they've pooled that money, they don't know what to do with it. And they can't necessarily get it to the impacted area or the impacted party in time. And so there's both a combination of scammers and those who really just are completely inexperienced to handle these types of events that you really want to avoid if possible. That's why we so often say you should work with an organization you can find on give.org, because we have 20 standards of charitable accountability that will walk you through everything you should know about that organization, whether they've been transparent in the past, whether they have proven to be capable of carrying out support before you provide that payment information. In the case of this horrific shooting, President Trump did endorse that crowdfunding effort on GoFundMe. So you know that that one is legitimate. But if you go to GoFundMe, you'll also find a handful of GoFundMe campaigns associated with the rally. All of them might have completely different people behind them, might have completely different resources to handle and facilitate that type of support. So you want to make sure, if you can, that you're working with someone who is proven to be capable and trustworthy in the past. And in a lot of times, it's very challenging to ever find that with crowdfunding campaigns, because in some cases, we're talking about folks who are brand new to that world, right? So you want to make sure that you're at least doing some research and being thoughtful with your gift, such that that money is actually going toward its intended purpose and not just going into someone's pocket.
And you can do just by looking at the page, you can see on this page here, they had a goal of $1 million, and it's already up to almost $5 million. So if you saw again a GoFundMe that only had a couple $100 in it, that should raise some eyebrows. And again, it's also one of the things that a lot of the news organizations have been picking up with this story and talking about it, and have had updates where it's hit 3 million, 4 million, and so on and so forth. So again, we talk about it in everything that we talk about, but just a little bit of research on your part, again, will go a long way.
Now is the time to ask questions, right? You're well within your right to ask, how will that donation be used? If you see a vague appeal, if you don't see that they indicate how they're going to use those funds that come in, how will those funds actually help the victims' families? It's probably worth avoiding, right? You want specifics if you're dealing with your bottom dollar. You want to make sure that that money is going to its intended use. And if someone is being completely vague or unwilling to answer legitimate questions, the questions that you would want to have answered, it's probably worth avoiding that experience entirely.
And then just to finish things up here, Josh, again, we talk about this all the time as well. But whether it's, again, the retail with Prime Day or whatever it might be, July retail shopping, or, again, these crowdfunding websites, if you see something, let you guys know, because you're not the only person who's probably seen it. If you fall victim to it, let the Better Business Bureau know, so that way, again, someone else does not fall into that pit as well.
2.5 minutes. It takes 2.5 minutes to go through bbb.org/scam tracker. That's our consumer protection tool. You can think about it as a public intake form for scam-related activity. It's incredibly important that you bring that information forward. I know it can feel like drinking from a fire hose most days, trying to get your head around the amount of scam-related activity that you monitor just as a consumer, right? But the reality is, it can be addressed, and something good can come out of something overwhelmingly negative, but only if you bring that information forward. It does the exact opposite of protecting your community by staying quiet. So please come forward with that information. Again, you don't need to have lost any amount of money for for that story to be able to protect someone else. We hear all the time from folks who walk away from transactions mid-transaction because they looked up the details of their experience on Scam Tracker and knew immediately that it was something that they should avoid, right? So please come forward with that information. You can be kept completely anonymous, and that story can actually protect someone from having to go through it.
Yeah, and again, it feels like, again, especially working in news, it's every other week we hear about someone lost this amount of money transferring Bitcoin to such and such and so, and again, that money's gone. So again, if you see something, say something. Josh, anything else before we let you go today that you want to make sure you get in there?
Safe shopping, everyone. I know that there's going to be a lot of opportunities today, tomorrow, next week. Certainly with school right around the corner, you want to make sure you're navigating those transactions as quickly as possible. This is also a good opportunity to shop locally if you can, right? One way to avoid all sort of online shopping scams is to shop in person, right? Mm-hmm. So that is something that we would certainly recommend. There are a lot of retailers that are offering in-person discounts, in-person sales events this summer, and so would encourage you to check those out as well.
Yeah, again, back-to-school shopping is supposed to be really fun. Probably more fun for the kids than the parents necessarily, but supposed to be a fun experience. And again, just, like we said, a little bit of research goes a long way to make sure it's fun for everyone.
Absolutely.
All right, Josh, appreciate your time. As always, great chatting with you. We'll see you again, hopefully next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bill.
All right, again, that was Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. Appreciate his time. And again, as always, his insight into these things. Again, like he said, again, supposed to be a good time over the next couple of weeks. Back to school coming up here, so hope everyone, again, just takes a little bit of time to make sure that their hard-earned money is going to where it should be. So appreciate everyone for tuning in, for watching, as always. Again, as always, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest news, weather, and sports. Until next time, folks, hope you have a nice Tuesday afternoon.